Poddin My Noggin, hosted by CK Sims, creating a platform to elevate, educate, and heal by creating a space where people can share their stories of struggle, triumph, and redemption. CKS Media.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Poddin My Noggin. I'm your host, CK Sims, and this week we are joined by Cheryl Stelte, who is a spiritual coach, an author, and a master healer. Welcome to the show, Cheryl. How are you?
Oh, thank you, CK. I'm thrilled to be here.
I'm thrilled to have you here. So I have questions, of course. I want to get into some of your stories in your earlier years, the things that, sort of kind of led you to where you are today. I have this question was sort of bouncing around this afternoon in my brain, if you will. I find all of this stuff very fascinating. And by stuff, I mean, like the spirituality side of things, chakras and everything like that. But I am sure that throughout your career, you're met with many skeptics or naysayers. How does one work with that? How do you sort of manage that kind of interaction, if you will?
Well, I don't get a lot of it.
Okay.
Because if people don't believe in what I'm doing, they don't contact me.
Fair. Okay, this is fair. So you're not sort of out in the public arena, if you will, ministering. Would that be a good word? Or...
I go where I'm going to be heard. I spend a good deal of my life not feeling heard. So I think I choose to, I do get the odd person who they don't question my abilities, they question their own to do the work. And I was interviewed, it must have been a year and a half ago by a fellow. And I told him about my, one of my most profound spiritual experiences. And he's like, well, like he really kind of brushed me off and my experience. And I thought, okay, well, that's your stuff. It's okay. And so it's not so the naysayers, even if I were speaking, and I am out there, it's not my job I don't want to convince anybody. Energy is energy. It's proven what I do. I won't go. I spoke on a summit. Oh, it has to be 4 years ago. And it was the woo something. And I'm like, that's not my word. I'm not woo. I'm extremely into practical spirituality. No flaky woo, anything described as that is not my thing. Let's grow, let's heal, let's grow, let's evolve, and I like to help people become the best person that they can be, the person they can't currently imagine. That's what I do.
I love that. And I think that that's perhaps a mastery in itself, right? If you think about it, if you're doing work that you are profoundly successful in and that you're passionate about, and you're finding the right people and going to the right places to be heard. And I think that there's a mastery in that as well as you grow into whomever you are. But yeah, so that was just bouncing around in my head. You're not the first person I've ever interviewed who worked with spirituality in some way or the other. It was just something that was like, what happens with naysayers and people? And I loved your response. I thought that was a very like articulate and I want to say mature, but don't want to come across condescending. Like robust, mature, sort of wonderful response to that. Like you don't experience it because you don't go there.
Well, and I'd like to add to that because you're bringing up something very interesting. Because when I started my spiritual journey, the word spiritual, I don't think I ever used that word in my life when I first started over 30 years ago. Talking about meditation, it was also a word I don't think I'd ever used. So I was I was not a spiritual person. I was raised Catholic. I I left the church, but still believed in God, really liked Jesus, loved Jesus. And I thought there was more. And I was exploring other modalities or, Buddhism, or no, I hadn't gotten into that yet. And so when I had my first spiritual experience, there was no denying it. It was an experience. There's no way I could have made that up. And yet,
Mm,
when I told my family about it,
yes.
my father didn't believe me. He told my entire family, no, that didn't happen. It's impossible. No, that didn't happen. And my family, to this day, all of them, immediate family, extended family, nobody has a clue what I do and nobody's interested. I did a
You know,
little, I won't say that. It's not that they're interested. They're not interested. They're not interested. I did lead some family members, my mom and it was one or two brothers and one brother's wife in meditation for a while, but they all just, I don't have time for this. It's not their thing. And it's often in families that there's the one sort of black sheep,
mm.
and I'm the one. So why? Yeah, exactly. So why try and convince them? They don't want to know.
And what's interesting too is that my parents are ministers, Pentecostal ministers. So I grew up in the church as well and left the church, and I still love Jesus, right? But like I have my own sort of spiritual sort of path that I've taken and look at other teachings because there's always more, and I don't believe that there's only one school of truth. Like if you believe in Christianity or God the creator, then you must also believe that there's all forms of creation, all forms of energy. They're one and the same. But yeah, so I'm the black sheep just like you. And what you were talking about just now, can you tell the audience, and this is how I do my shows. They're just conversational, but
No.
can you tell the audience what you were referencing just now, where you had your first spiritual experience, you told your family, your father's response, which I mean, I think when you share this with the audience, to me, I think I can understand perhaps where your father was coming from in that moment, sort of like the disbelief and all of that stuff. But will you share that with us?
Yes, yes, I'm more than happy to share it. And if I can, I just want to make a comment. You said the magic word. You said there is, I think you said there is one truth. Truth, folks. Truth. Truth. The more we seek truth, and that's what you're looking for, right? Finding all the avenues to the one truth. And that's so powerful. It is just, and it will always take you to the right place. Okay, and the next step and the next. And I believe in truth and the truth of the divine or God or spirit or this universe, everything. We're all one. I've discovered that, and I experience oneness and unity consciousness. So here I was, I think I was 31, on the beach, up on Vancouver Island. And a good friend of mine, we had gone out there to pick oysters, and she'd never picked oysters. And I love picking oysters. So we go up there, and I got the tides wrong. So the tide is in, and it needs to be out to pick oysters. So we're waiting on the beach, and she said to me, "Hey, while we're waiting, because this is going to be a while, why don't would you let me practice kinesiology on you?" And so she was doing spiritual healing or some kind of energy healing with this kinesiology, and she was just doing this muscle testing with her fingers. And so I'm laying on the beach, and she's talking a mile a minute, and she's doing this testing, and she's saying, "Oh, it's this person, it's your aunt, it's your so and so, and this and that," and then she's saying she's clearing things, and I'm not feeling anything. I'm just laying there enjoying the sunshine on my legs. And all of a sudden, there was this giant white light hovering above me that was radiating the most profound, the deepest love I have ever felt. And I just started crying. And I knew it was my brother's spirit. I knew beyond the shadow of a doubt it was Brian. And she's rattling on and on and on. And I want to say, hey, wait a minute. And then she stops and she said, oh, it's your brother, for this healing thing. And then she goes, oh my God, he's here. And I said, yes. So how did we both experience that? Tell me that. How did we both? And so she had never channeled anybody. Neither of us ever experienced a spirit before. And so he spoke to me through her, and his message was basically to start meditating. And so I did. But by the next day, he stuck around for the weekend. His spirit would just show up, and I started to be able to hear him myself. And I've never shared this with anyone online. I've shared this story a few times, but I've never shared this, and I feel so compelled to tell you. So at the beach there's like an embankment, and I'm standing up on the embankment, and he's down on the rocks. This is a really rough west coast of Canada beach, and I could feel his presence down at the beach. And this was the day we were going to be leaving, so two days after the experience. And I said to him, because this all was starting to feel very normal, I said to him, I can hear you now, which I'm really so grateful for, but can I see you? And all of a sudden he was beside me, and he said, no, you can't see me. And he goes like this with his shoulder, but you can feel me. And I felt all that love again, and I cried. It just was so profound. So of course I was going to start meditating. Of course. And the whole spiritual world just opened up, and I told my sister-in-law, who led me to a book. And she said, you should get this book. But I should have. And I did. Elizabeth Kubler-Ross on Death and Dying. And it just gave me a deeper understanding. But what also happens with people after they have that kind of experience, apparently it's quite common to start doubting the experience, because our old conditioning starts coming in, and the family, because dad said it didn't happen. But one of my brothers believed me 100%. And then he didn't want to talk about it anymore, because dad said, and that's the family dynamic. What dad says goes, right? And so that's my story.
It's a remarkable story, I think, because the fact that the two of you experience the same thing, right, gives you cause for pause. No matter how much of a skeptic you may be, like, how did two individuals experience the same thing? And as I said, like, I think I'm not surprised by your father's reaction, for sure.
Yeah.
Because I think it's just, well, one is that I don't know how many years he had been past your brother or that sort of thing, but it seems so, that seems a little woo, right? If you will, for a moment, like, that seems a little woo, a little like, what? Okay, what's happening? No, that sort of thing. But so you said that people can start sort of doubting their own experience afterwards due to their own sort of human conditioning, and then your father, did that happen to you?
I started to, and that was when my sister-in-law suggested I get that book. And she said,
And so some people in your family did in fact believe that you experienced
yeah,
this.
my sister-in-law was the one who believed me every step of the way.
Oh, lovely.
100%. Yeah.
I love this. So this is 30 years ago, as you have said. I mean, what I just trying to sort of process what kind of like propulsion you might have been under in that moment. You were visited by your brother. You were told to meditate. Like, what was your thought process, your sort of experience after that, after sharing this with your family and all of those things? Like, did you feel propelled to meditate, like to throw yourself into this world?
Oh, did I? Oh, yes. And the internet wasn't really happening yet. And did I have my first? It was right around the time I got my first computer. So there might have been the internet, but it was just in the beginning stages. It was almost 32 years ago.
So
So
1993,
yeah,
1995 is
yeah, yeah,
essential.
yeah,
Yeah,
90,
so I wouldn't have had a computer in my house at that point either.
yeah,
So yeah, the internet is not what it is today, for
yeah.
sure.
So, so you're darn right I was going to meditate after that experience. And so when I got back to town on Monday morning, I started phoning. I phoned a meditation place, and I didn't know why people meditated. I thought it was so I could continue to communicate with my deceased brother, Brian. And so the first person asked me, "Why do you want to meditate?" And I said, "Well, so I can communicate with my deceased brother's spirit." And they said, "Oh, we don't have that kind of meditation." And I thought, "Oh, okay, maybe somebody else does." So, and I'm in the yellow pages in the hard copy, right? This is old school. And I got the same answer for the third time. And I thought, okay, I'm not going in the right direction. How do I know how to find the right meditation? Maybe I'm not supposed to ask that question. Maybe they don't believe, they wouldn't believe my story or whatever. And I might have told one of them, I can't remember. But then that lunch, I was at work, and on my lunch that day, I had to go, I had a little appointment booked in this building, and I walk in this building and I'm going down the hall, and there's a sign on a door, meditation classes starting. And it was the next night. So I just wrote down the information and I went to the class. I didn't mention talking to my deceased brother, although he did communicate with me a couple times in that class. And so I learned that's what got me meditating, but it's absolutely not the style of meditation I stayed with.
So for people at home, like I think that there is as many types of, and maybe I'm wrong, but as many types of meditation as there are tea, right? So
Yeah,
like
there's many.
what what meditation type did you start with, like in those classes, and say, what would you define yourself as a meditation type now?
Okay. Well, the woman who taught it, uh, something happened with her parents. They didn't die, but she ended up um, living with her aunt and uncle, and she was 14 years old. And they meditated, and they taught her how to meditate, and as a practice to, calm her and help her feel better, because she was, abandoned by her parents in whatever way. And so she didn't have a name for it. It was just a method, and you pay attention to the air as it enters and leaves your nostrils, and you can kind of feel it on your upper lip, which
Okay.
I can barely feel. I can barely feel that. But anyway, that was it. And it wasn't about sitting cross-legged or sitting on a chair. That was a practice. And she strongly would remind us to just breathe normally. And so I did that course. It was a course, 6 or 8 weeks, whatever it was, completed it. But I said to her at least once, when I breathe like this, when I'm focused on my breath, my body, it's like I start breathing in longer breaths. And she said, "Well, that's not the way to do it. You just breathe normally." And I said, "But I can't help it. It just does it." She said, "Well, then you just need to start breathing normally again." And I was like, okay. So I'm trying to be the good student. And this kind of kept happening. So by the end of the class, I just thought, I'll continue to breathe that way. And I think my body was conditioned to take long breaths because I grew up in Alberta, Canada, where it gets colder than anywhere in the US, folks. I'm living in the States now, but I have to laugh when people live in Minnesota or someone, they say, "Oh no, I grew up in the cold. I know what it's like." Nope, you don't. Come
And
on up
sometime
to,
you go back, and then you come talk to me
yeah.
about
It's
goals.
painful. It's painful. And my mother always taught us, like, she really bundled us up when we were little. She did a great job with that. Big scarves. I mean, you know how to dress. The snow pants, everything. You're geared up to go outside. And she used to always say, if you start to pant, if you start to huff and puff, you don't breathe through your mouth, whatever you do, because your lungs could freeze and you could die. And it's true. And so I had the fear of God put in me, do not breathe through your mouth. So I I remember discovering this, and I think, I don't know, I was somewhere between the age of 6 and 8, and I'm walking to my friend's place after school to go play. I'd already been home, and that was a 6 block walk, and it's cold out, and so I wanted to go, so my mom bundled me up, and I'm walking, and I'm trying to walk fast. I'm so cold. I'm just chilled to the bone, and I'm shivering so badly. I'm just shaking, and I was so scared. I wanted to start breathing through my mouth, and I would start and I would stop, and I couldn't breathe through my nose. And I'm got a little worked up from walking so fast. I'm trying to get there. I'm a freezing little kid. And so I started breathing through my nose with longer breaths to try and get enough air. Like, this was more survival. And the shivering stopped because I'm calming
Mm.
my sympathetic nervous system. And the shivering stopped. I'm like, what? And I started to feel warmer. And I continued to breathe like this. And then when I breathed normally, I would start shaking and get all cold again. So I learned that, and it became a coping mechanism for the cold winters in Alberta. And this is back in the day. I mean, we used to get 3, 4 feet of snow every winter. It wasn't all there at one time, but you never had less than 2 or 3 feet of snow on the ground. It was so cold. And then I noticed when I was in junior high school, I wasn't quite able to keep up to the pace I wanted to running around the track. So I started breathing in the same way with a long, full, deep breath, and my endurance got better. And then I started passing all my friends, and they're like, "What are you doing? How come you're passing us today?" And I told them, and so we all practiced that, and we had better endurance. But what I unknowingly was doing through the meditation with this long breath was I was accessing my subconscious. Because when we take long, full, deep breaths, it changes the brain function. As soon as you engage your abdominal muscles, your breathing, which started at the back of the brain stem or the medulla oblongata, goes to your frontal lobal brain, and it frees up the subconscious. And then you can get into your right brain. So I started having flashes, like pieces of memory from my early childhood, from times before I could remember, and all these emotions would come up, all this emotional pain, because I learned, like most people my age, to repress my emotions. We're taught that's how humans used to survive, that's how we coped. And so I had this backlog of emotions, and that's how I started to heal myself.
I'm mindful of time, and I just wanted to go back real quick. This, when you were telling me about the class, and you said what the instruction was, like breathe in through your nose and then feel the air on the top of your lips. So I could slightly feel it. But what I noticed immediately to your story was my breathing completely slowed down before you even had gotten to that point. And it was like, I have done meditation before, so I don't know if that's like a reflex but I just imagine that when you're focused on your breathing or something that's in response to your breathing, you're going to take, in my brain, longer, deeper breaths. I don't know. I
Well,
don't know.
I have a different theory, and that could be
Okay.
true. That could be true. And I invite you to try it on your own. You can try it after the show, play with it a little bit. But what happens, and this is not me being presumptuous. I remember two of my spiritual teachers, I did some training online, studied with a lot of different people. So I'm online and I'm in Canada and they're in Arizona. And it was like my energy was shifting just being in their presence, not by what they said, but just being in their presence. So when we're on a strong spiritual journey, our vibration changes and it's different. And as we're in, we all live kind of like in this soup of oneness. We're all one, we're all connected. And so we influence each other. And I asked my instructor once online, why am I feeling like this? What's happening? He said, oh, you're getting my transmission. You're getting transmission through me. And when I would teach, I taught a lot of meditation classes in my home, and I rented spaces and taught groups. And whoever sat directly across from me got the biggest blast of my transmission, and it would often put them to sleep. And so people would say, why, how come I don't fall asleep when I meditate at home, but when I sit here I do? I said, oh, you just need to change places, it's just too much for you. And then they wouldn't fall asleep, or they would have their most profound experience. It would be different that way. So you're likely just getting my energy of a long full breath, and you're
Yeah, I buy into that so much. Right? And we do have to take a quick break, but I think it's something that I've experienced so much in my own life. So I will be told by people often that when they're around me, they experience a warmth,
yes,
like a safety, like a kindness, soft place to land. This is also like, I guess, if you want to air quote brand, like this is who I want to be, but who I feel I am naturally now once I found myself. So like I do, when somebody walks into a room or you walk into a room with somebody and you can feel them, that safety, that whatever that energy may be, right? So I totally 100% buy into that and think that that's just energy. We're going to take a quick break. We'll be right back.
Partner today with CK Sims and Poddin My Noggin to get in front of an audience that cares. You will be supporting mental health stories, tales of resilience, and uplifting content, aligning your brand with bringing goodness, authenticity, and kindness front and center. This spot could be yours. Do you have a story of struggle and resilience? One that you want to share with others and possibly help someone through their own struggles? Find the link in the show description and fill out the guest form today.
Welcome back, everybody. Before the break, we have been talking to Cheryl Stelte about all things healing and energy, and she shared with us how she started on her journey through becoming a master healer and an author. And Cheryl, you trained with lots of people. When did you write your first book?
I wrote my first book 6 years ago. Finished it 5 years ago. Finished it 5 years ago. Yes.
What was the catalyst there?
Oh, goodness. I had had a number of spiritual nudges, like most authors. These nudges, this inner knowing, this guidance that I was going to write a book. And, the first nudges, I'll say, speak for myself, that I got, and I've heard other authors. The first nudges, it was like, okay, yes, one day. Yes, one day. And it got to the point I was on a spiritual retreat for a week, silent retreat by myself. And I got the strongest guidance at the end. You need to write a book now, 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 now. And it was like, whoa, okay. How do I write a book? And that was it.
And what is that book called?
Oh, the first book is Heal Your Neck Issues and Let Your Throat Chakra Shine. And it was, yes, yeah, it's right there. And that wasn't going to be the name of the book. I wanted to write about it. And there is a chapter in there. There's a meditation near the end. It's a very advanced meditation, very advanced, living from your deathbed. That's what I wanted to name the book, Living from Your Deathbed. Because when the soul, when we're at the end of our time, the soul really can come through. And through reading more about Elizabeth Kubler-Ross's book, I mean, she's interviewed, I'm sure she's still number one for the amount of people she has interviewed in hospice, people that are on their deathbed. And so many women wish they wore more purple and red. So many people regret the things they didn't say, they didn't do. How many people hear from a dying parent, I'm so proud of you, for the first time? They've never heard it before. The end of this part of the soul's journey is so significant. And so it's a practice we can imagine. Okay, we're finished. And this isn't in your mind, right? The work I do, it's not left brain, but your subconscious will tell you how you can adjust your life now so that you're going to be really happy when you're on your deathbed. Like, I have done a lot of wild and crazy things in my life that were super cool that most wouldn't. I traveled, I sold everything and traveled for 20 months. And when I would do wild and crazy things, when I don't consider myself a wild and crazy person, um, I would just say, what are the odds of me dying? And I did not do one thing that I really wanted to do because the chances of me dying were way too high. But it's, how will I feel on my deathbed? How will I feel on my deathbed? And then it's like, oh, I'm so scared. I am terrified. I remember when I rappelled off 150-foot waterfalls in Ecuador, and I was so scared to go over that cliff. I was just shaken, shaken, shaken. And I just said, you're going to feel so great when you're on your deathbed. You're going to remember this because it's going to be amazing. And I went over, and once you're over, the fear all goes away. And and I went down and I wiped out once and I smashed into the cliff and the water's coming down, and it was hard to get back because you're like this. Here's your body is vertical and your legs are parallel as you sort of shimmy down the cliff.
Mm.
But yeah, and so that's what I thought the book would be. And I hired a coach to help me write the book. And she kind of said, no, nobody's going to buy that book because you're giving the solution. She said, you need to speak to what their problem is. And I was like, oh. And then she said, what's the number one problem all your clients have? And I really had to think about that. It took me a while. It took me a while. And then I realized they all have throat chakra issues. And I think I have more throat chakra issues than anyone in the whole world. and and the throat chakra is the hardest chakra to heal because we're like a bottleneck. It all comes narrow and everything accumulates in there. And it's our expression, it's our voice and that sort of thing. And so I shifted into that as a book, but I still put that very powerful meditation in there.
Well, what a profound way to live, really. Right? It's other versions of that is like live like you were dying or that sort of thing. But I think we as humans hold on to so many faulty assumptions and belief systems and pride and all of this BS, really, that when it comes down to the wire and you are on your deathbed, nothing else matters. Your time is up. It's like the light bulb. It's like you allow yourself to feel all the feels, to put away all the fear and the anger, and then this stuff starts flowing through you naturally. This is why you say, I'm so proud of you as a parent for the first time, or whatever those things. So essentially what you're saying with this meditation is, okay, I could be on my deathbed tomorrow. We don't know that answer. But if I were to practice that meditation, I could totally change how that's going to play out when I do end up on my deathbed. It's because I lived with letting things flow, if you will, the energy, the chakras, like all of that. So I got that. I've understood
Yes, you're right. And we start to see life as what really matters, what really matters to us. And there's times, I ask myself the question, how will I feel on my deathbed? And I'll be just like, no, it's not a big deal. It's not a big deal. And
Mm,
it's especially, we can ask the question. I was pondering something the other day, something that I've wanted to do for a long time and haven't done it. And I was asking myself, why haven't I done it? Uh, and it's and I started to look at, we all do this. We let other people influence us at times, and uh, and so it really is listening to other people, because we can get so much information. The universe source speaks through other people all the time to help us along. So very, very important. And then we can go back to this. How will I feel about this when I'm ready to go, when I'm ready to leave this planet, when this part of my soul's journey is over? Because I believe 100%, I want to say 110%, that the soul goes on, continues the journey,
I
and
believe that too.
yeah, we don't know when we're going to get another chance back here, if we do. But
Yeah, I
yeah,
believe that too. I don't believe the soul ceases to exist. I think it just goes to wherever it's supposed to go to next, whether that's heaven or just in the cosmos or whatever. I don't think we're just having human experiences,
yes,
right? Spiritual beings, human experiences. Um, no, I love that. I think that we could all learn from that if we try to live that way. And I think for me personally, this podcast is representative of that sort of very type of meditation because my whole life I've always been extraordinarily insecure and afraid of being anything that could be judged, if you will. And this comes from like childhood and being a preacher's kid and feminine and all of these things. Like it's all just sandwiched on top of each other. And then when in 2023, actually, I had a very nice, cushy corporate job. Oh, it was wonderful. I thought I was going to be there till the end of like retirement, which is many years from now. And then one day I went to work and my whole unit was packaged out, like just out the door. And I was like, I mean, for me, I always try to look at things on the bright side now. So I'm like, ooh, extended vacation. This is fantastic because you can be damn sure I made them pay. Um, but there was this moment when that happened that I thought to myself, like I'm financially okay with the package. What am I supposed to be doing? What is it something that I've always wanted, dreamed of, lusted after, desired, all of those particular things? And I've always wanted my own show. I've always wanted the opportunity to talk to people and interview people. And I just decided, you know what? I'm like, I'm just going to do it. I'm going to start a podcast. I mean, what's the worst that can happen? Or better yet, what's the best that could happen? And so here we are, right? Now I'm coming up to 90 episodes. So it's 2 years almost. And like, it's if you choose to let go of fear or pride or whatever that's holding you back and open yourself up to receive. Yeah. So anyway, not enough about me, but yeah, I get to meet wonderful people like yourself who I learn from all the time, right? And I get goosies when I'm talking to those people and all of that sort of thing. So for people at home, what would be one piece from your experience in spirituality and master healing and all of those things, what would be one piece of advice if you could give them to, well, actually, I don't even know if I want to give you an outcome. What is it that you, Cheryl Stelte, would like to tell people at home? What is something you'd like them to take away and leave with?
the the number one thing, I have a very important, the number one thing that if you took out of my life would never be the same. That I cannot live without the style of meditation I do. And the
Okay.
reason is, And so I do chakra readings. I can see energy. I can do readings. I can now speak to spirits. I'm a medium. I haven't come out of the closet on that though. It's not something I'm testing this out how that feels when I say it, and it's actually comfortable. Uh, but the number one thing is process your emotions. We were designed to process our emotions and not just the superficial ones. So the superficial ones are anger and fear, even sadness, that sort of thing. But every single person on this planet has a backlog of emotions. So when I do readings on people, I can tell you where all your backlogs reside, all your things that you don't want to feel, that you've been conditioned are not okay to feel, and that you feel safer in not feeling. And people actually, even with, horror, I help people with sexual abuse, all kinds of trauma, torture, even. I worked with a client whose father tortured her, honestly. But sometimes the pain is so great, we push it out of our system, our energetic system. I even did a reading on a psychic once, and she was psychic her whole life. And I said to her, I never tell people as a rule that they've been sexually abused, because who am I to tell them? It's their stuff. I'll just say you have some serious blocks back here. It's often a violation. And most times I can't tell exactly what it is right away. And it doesn't matter. But this woman, I said, I hate to tell you this. She had so much light. She was so bright. And I said, you've pushed something deep and dark way in the back of your sacral chakra. It's so far out, it's out of your chakra system completely. And you've pushed it there as far as you can into your subconscious. And she said, yeah, I know. And I said, do you think you're ready to deal with it? And she said, I don't know. I said, it's really painful. And then she said, what is it? And I told her. I said, I think it's sexually abused. She said, yes, it is. Too hard. And I said, you're ready. You're ready. You're ready to bring that in. And when I help people with the greatest pain, it's not so much about what happened, it's how they felt. And those emotions are still frozen inside them. And so, with my method, whether you do it on your own, you get my help or someone else's help, it's about processing all that. I see it all as black energy in people, and you still have lots of light. And so, what happens is, and let's go back to the very beginning of this show, this episode, when you talked about the real truth. When you clear those blocks, that's what the blocks are, repressed emotions, stuck emotions. You were only a year and a half. You were a newborn. You were in the womb, and it was too painful, and you didn't have the emotional resources around you to help you. When you start to clear that stuff, your light starts to spread throughout your being, and all it does is light up more and more of your truth, of the truth of your being, of who you truly are, and what this whole world is about, and your place in it.
So, okay, I love that. And question for you. If you could pick one of you've written 4 books, correct?
3 and part of a compilation book. Yeah.
Okay. So if you could pick one book for your audience to read, to grab, which one would it be?
For the younger people, I'm going to say,
Sure.
if you're younger than 40, the Heal Your Neck Issues and Let Your Throat Chakra Shine book. If you're 40 plus, grab the From Block to Powerful book.
Okay. I love this. Now, I want to be mindful of time. So you have a website, and it is called starofdivinelight.com.
Yes.
It is packed with incredible stuff. What you're doing, the different programs that you have, your books, events, your podcasts, your testimonials. Also, you have a contact me section on there, so people can contact you. Your readings and all the things that you do virtually as well, right?
Everything's virtual.
Everything's virtual, so it doesn't matter where they are in the world.
That's right.
They can connect with you and get a reading. And you're working on a compilation book. That's what's next for you?
Oh no, I participated in that. I participated in a compilation book. What I'm working on right now is coming out of the closet on being a medium. That's my slow little process because I still have some conditioning around. That's just too woo for. It's just too flaky that this woman uh, can speak with spirits. But I keep saying I'm doing it, and that's why I mentioned it on your show. But my new thing that I'm really getting out there that is so amazing are business chakra readings. So if you have a business of any sort, contact me for a business chakra reading. It's like, whoa, so helpful for people in business because we are our businesses, and
Mhm.
whatever energy, whatever's stuck or blocked in the business is blocked or stuck in us. And I really, that's my forte is helping people remove their blocks, understanding what they are, and really gaining the clarity that they want so they can move forward.
I love this. I love this. So for business and for personal.
Yes.
And I believe, if I'm not wrong, if you head over to your website right now, you can get a discounted chakra reading at
Yeah,
$75.
that's right. That's right.
It's originally 133 and it's down to $75. So if you're watching and you want a chakra reading, it's $75. Yo, I will say this to you. We go about life spending money here and we spending money there. And half the time it is not thought about. It is just a reflex. Here's $100 at the movies. Here's $100 at a fast food joint. All of those particular things. What if we took $100, not even actually 75, and just instead of a fast food meal, got a chakra reading, even if you're not even sure you believe in it. What is the fear or the loss in having a chakra reading that could potentially remove your blocks or help you find your truth,
Yes.
right? So when and especially if you're a business and you're out there, you're doing your thing. Also, is it the same price, 75, or is it
Oh,
more?
no, it's longer. It's 45 to 60 minutes and it's 250.
That makes sense. And a business write-off, though,
Yes,
I think.
that's right.
Yes.
Totally a business write-off. Because it's
So,
so validating. You get so much information, and people often say, wow, you're a bang on. Oh my gosh, now I know exactly what to do. Okay. And if it's a personal one and they have blocks, I can give you tips on, what you can do to clear those blocks. And I do remove in a reading if there's any energy outside of you that's kind of getting your way, that's a piece of cake to remove. So I do that if I can. Yeah. If I see
all
it.
right. If you want to find all of your Cheryl's books, you can also head over to her website again, Star of Divine Light. We will put that in the description so it's very easy for everybody to find. And I think in the near future, you're probably going to be able to meet with Cheryl Stelte and do some medium work as well. I feel like that's bubbling under the surface, coming out, and it's you're claiming that and bringing that into your stratosphere of what you offer. And you had mentioned, like, I totally get it, right? We all still have like weird conditionings about certain things and all of that sort of stuff. But you've spent 30 years working on energy. I feel like it's not a far leap to realize that if you can see energy and aura and blocks and chakras and things like that, that you should be able to see other dimensional spirits like that particular thing. Does that make sense?
Yes, yes. And I can't, well, I have seen a couple spirits. Well, what's a word? I woke up one night in the middle of the night and I just said, oh my God, I'm having an apparition. There was this man in my room. There was a spirit in my room. And I knew that I was seeing a spirit. And I was just like, wow, that's amazing. And then I rolled over and went back to sleep. And it was not a dream. And my sister-in-law, the one I told you about, she sees spirits all the time. She's forever seeing spirits. And so I don't know. I don't know that I think You know, some people see them, some don't.
I don't see them, but I'm perhaps I'm okay with that.
Yeah, because
Yeah,
they're
I think I'm
around.
yeah, I think I'm okay with that. But I mean, I'm also always ever open to whatever the universe sends my way,
Yes.
right?
I
So,
actually, I shouldn't, I see them with my eyes closed. So I've done work, I've done training, and I've done work around removing spirits from people's homes. So I can go through someone's house. They'll usually send me pictures, and I'll have the pictures, or they'll walk me through the home with a video. And then I go through the home if they think there's a spirit, and there usually is. And then I'm able to get rid of the spirit. And then they feel the difference. And it's often it's a young person in the home, like a child that experiences a spirit, because they're so much more open than adults are. And so yeah, I've taught people how to make sure you just keep them away, because the ones I find, they're not bad, they're just lost, they haven't gone to the light yet. And so it's a matter of helping them. It's interesting what happens. Like, there was one fellow, I removed a spirit from a house. This man, he was in so much pain, and all these beings came in and helped heal him. So I got to witness this healing. I mean, I was a part of it, but it wasn't me. It was amazing. It was so amazing. And he was able then to go to the light. It just, and there's always love involved, when there's a healing like that. It's so profound. So I do see spirits in that way. I can tell anywhere if there is, but I don't consciously bother tuning in.
I understand that. Perfect. All right. Well, thank you so much for being a guest. Everybody head over to starofdivinelight.com and get in touch with Cheryl. And until next time, get out there and live your wildest dreams.
For media and sponsorship inquiries, email info@cksims.com or visit cksims.com and fill out the contact form. Be sure to subscribe so you don't miss an episode. A new episode airs every Saturday. CKS Media.